What's good, fam? Teacher Eddie back with another reaction. This time doing the full breakdown of Vlad the Impaler versus Count Dracula. So this morning I released the condensed version where I only graded the rap battle, but this time I am doing the full breakdown line by line of this ERB to catch all the references. So the ERB's doing the ER breakdown. Let's get into it.
About that bottles of a storm. Count Dracula.
Imagine forests of corpses dripping on a buffet. You call that a nightmare, I call that a Tuesday. Vlad Dracula, spawn of the devil, dipping my bread in your weeping blood vessels.
Oh man, again, Vlad just literally Vlad kills it, right?
Imagine forests.
So he starts off with, imagine forests of corpses.
Of corpses dripping on
a buffet. So a buffet, goddamn, again, the CRB made me hungry, if anything. So a buffet, of course, anybody who's been to a buffet knows that it's just a whole bunch of food that's set out, and you go and you get whatever you want. And one of the big legends of Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Dracula, Vlad Tepes, is that he was one of the most cruel, generals, leaders of all time. And a lot of it does stem from his enemies as to how cruel he truly was. That's kind of left up for debate. Because one of the things that I found weird, there was only one small reference here to the fact that Vlad was held captive for over a decade by his enemies. And during that time, his enemies started spreading all these rumors of the horrible things that Vlad did, like impaling his victims, and also that he was a cannibal, and that he would have these big meals on the battlefield while his enemies were still, on the stakes that they were impaled on, and that he would dip his bread in their blood and he would eat them and all these things. So again, that's kind of up for debate because especially in certain parts of the world, such as Romania, Vlad is actually celebrated as a hero, though the consensus is not a great guy, right?
A buffet. You call that a nightmare, I call that a Tuesday. Vlad Dracula, spawn of the...
You call that a nightmare, I call it a Tuesday. Like, man, you think that's bad? Pfft, that's like a Tuesday for me, son. What you talking about? Vlad Dracula, spawn of the devil. So this is a play literally on the name Dracula, which is translated from his native language to son of the devil. So he's saying spawn of the devil, son of the devil. That's a play on his name.
Devil, dipping my bread in your weeping blood vessels. Scorch the earth from Hungary to Wallachia.
Scorched the earth from Hungary to Wallachia. So most famously, on several separate occasions, he was recognized as the Prince of Wallachia, which is now in modern day Romania, and Hungary as well. But Hungary could kind of be a play on, again, his cannibalism, but also scorching the earth, which Vlad was known for, especially when he had to retreat, which unfortunately he had to do a lot of retreating. So he would basically burn the cities, towns, villages, and scorch the earth. So this way it was kind of like, if I can't have you, nobody will, right?
I inspire fear, you inspire Count Dracula. Step into the Turks and the body started dropping. Put my foot on ottomans like I was furniture shop.
That is one of my favorite lines from this ERB.
And the body started dropping. Put my foot on ottomans like I was.
Put my foot on ottomans like I was furniture shopping, right? So of course, he disses him by saying, look, I inspire fear. I don't know about you. All you inspire is Count Dracula. And later on, Count Dracula self-inflicts harm on himself by basically acting like the Count from Sesame Street. Step to the Turks. So this is true because one of the enemies that Vlad famously fought was the Ottoman Empire, right? The Ottoman Turks. And an Ottoman is something that Vlad has his foot on right now, which is kind of like a little step stool that you can kick your feet up on. So he's saying, I was stepping on them bitches' necks like I was stepping on an Ottoman while furniture shopping.
Furniture shopping. I save my steaks, no need crucifix. I kill you, it's Olive Garden, garlic breadsticks.
That was such a good line. I love it, man. So I save my steaks, don't need crucifix. So crucifix, obviously, who was the comedian who made the great? Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks had a great bit about crucifixes. He's like, you know, for all those people who, you know, Christians, I'm not trying to shit on you people, but do you really think if Jesus does ever come back, the first thing he wants to see is like the worst moment of his life, of him being, you know, nailed to a cross? You really want that? So a crucifix is the symbol of Jesus on the cross. That's a crucifix versus just wearing a regular cross. I save my steaks. So again, Vlad was, at least to the lore and the legend, known for staking his enemies, right? Usually from the rear, and sometimes even said that he would impale them through, you know, the asshole. Okay? Very painful. Okay, he'd literally rip people a new asshole. And one of the tropes in the Dracula mythology is that if you put up a crucifix, obviously that's going to repel him. And one of the ways to kill Dracula is with a stake through the heart. But he's saying, I save my steaks, right? I don't need steaks for you. I could beat your ass with some Olive Garden breadsticks. Olive Garden, yes. Olive Garden is white people's idea of, hey man, that's authentic Italian food. Kind of like Taco Bell. Try to go to an actual Mexican restaurant and order a gordita or a crunch wrap. See what happens, man.
I butcher men, women, and children like cows. Put more meat on swords than Fogo de Chao.
That was another great, again, man, Vlad just kills it in this one. He totally skews the Count throughout, though. So he mentions that he kills men, women, and children. He slaughters them like cows, which is something that Vlad did brag about to one of his friends. He said, you know, I've murdered or butchered men, women, children, and he was kind of proud of it, right? And that I skewer more meat than Fogo de Chao. Put more meat on swords than Fogo de Chao. So as I mentioned in the previous video, Fogo de Chao is a Brazilian restaurant, right? So it's basically, you know, a steakhouse, but it's got, you sit at a table and you don't have one waiter. It's just a bunch of waiters, you know, roving around the restaurant, going from table to table, and they have meat on these skewers. And like I said, man, the last Brazilian steakhouse I went to was off the chains, man. They had all the steak, all the pork, all the chicken, but they also have more, you know, exotic meats that you won't usually get at a restaurant, like crocodile and shark and bison, ox meat, venison, ostrich meat. It's So good. So he's like, I put more meat on swords than Fogo de Chao, baby.
Than Fogo de Chao.
Does this mic still work after that blah blah blah? Check 1, 2.
Yeah, I felt that was pretty weak. Because again, he's kind of proven Vlad's point by saying, you know, when Vlad said, I inspire fear, you inspire Count Dracula, by acting like the Count from Sesame Street. And he's saying, is this mic still on after the blah, blah, blah? And that's, that kind of is like one of those lines like, you know, Casablanca, play it again, Sam. Like, Bogart never said that. There was, I don't think that Lugosi ever said blah, blah, blah. I don't honestly know where that came from. But it's become part of the lexicon when you talk about Dracula, you know, blah, blah. But also blah, blah, blah is like, all you're doing is talking, blah, blah, blah. I don't even hear what you're saying, man. And he's checking the mic, too. Check mic. 1, 2, 1, 2.
The flex of a rear-spearing princeling can't vex me, 'cause I nibble necks and I make it look sexy.
Yeah, he's going in and saying that Vlad's trying to flex, but all he really is a princeling, which is an insult, because a princeling, kind of like saying youngling, like you think you're hot shit, but really you're just a prince of like a small little town, like Wallachia. Like you ain't that big a deal, man. You think you a big deal, but all you are is a princeling. Like you're not even a full-fledged prince. And Vlad was recognized as Prince of Wallachia, again, on separate occasions prior to and then after his, well, not exile. He was kept prisoner for over a decade by his enemies. So he's saying, you're not that big a deal and you're just trying to flex, but it doesn't vex me. And he refers to him as a rear-spearing princeling. And again, Vlad was known for spearing and skewering his enemies and victims from the rear and sometimes in the rear.
I'm universally known for intrigue and desire. I shapeshift into mist and bone when all the riders slick hair.
Yeah, okay, you did.
I nibble necks and I make it look sexy.
Yeah, I nibble necks and I make it look sexy. So the 1931 version of Dracula, which was not the first film, there were other vampire type films, but it was the first film to use the title Dracula and made Dracula into like a sexy, suave motherfucker, right? Previous to that, you had I forget the actor, Max Schreck. Max Schreck played a version of the Count based off of Bram Stoker's novel in a film called Nosferatu. And Nosferatu is an old Romanian way of saying, you know, Dracula or vampire, right? And he was just ugly as sin. So the Bela Lugosi version was the first version where you get the modern day, you know, like slick-haired, handsome, suave, debonair vampire. And that comes out in 1931. And I like how he says universally known because it was released by Universal Studios, which then became famous for all their monster movies, right? The Universal Studios movies like Frankenstein, The Wolfman, The Mummy, with Lon Chaney Jr. and Boris Karloff. So universally known.
Say I'm universally known for intrigue and desire. I shapeshift into mist and bone when all the
Yeah, I shapeshift into mist. So in the movies, not only could he shapeshift into mist, but he could also shapeshift into animals. Not just bats, but wolves, you know, creatures of the night. But in the 1992 movie directed by Francis Ford Coppola, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Winona Ryder was a character in the movie in which the Count, played by Gary Oldman, does seduce her. And yeah, bones her. Yeah.
Either slick hair, pop collar, and a damn nice cape. Well, you've got less taste than an and rice cake. You're
Okay, yeah. So that was one of the good lines by the Count. But really, again, Anne Rice is writing about vampires. She's not really writing about Vlad, right? Even though Vlad was, for Bram Stoker, the inspiration for Count Dracula, Anne Rice is really writing more about people like the Count here. So again, that's the reason why I didn't play that line that hard. Because it really, you know, it's more geared towards himself. But Anne Rice Cake is pretty good, because rice cakes are just, like, tasteless. You're basically eating cardboard at that point, but, I don't know, people still eat that shit. And Anne Rice, of course, is the author of many famous vampire-based books, which then was turned into several movies, most famously probably Interview with a Vampire, starring Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise back in, I think it was like 93 or 94.
rhymes are empty, like I leave vascular systems. I'd grant you the privilege of being Dracula's victim, but the thought of biting you makes me get nauseous. You don't look like the type that's keen on neck wash.
Yeah, so this is a good line for Dracula. So the previous lines are kind of weak sauce. What did we have there? Yeah, I didn't like the I leave you empty like I leave vascular systems. That's like such a, you know, writing a rap battle, but you haven't done any battles yet, so you're just trying to rhyme shit.
Grant you the privilege of being Dracula's victim, but the thought of biting you makes me get...
Yeah, this part is basically a setup for the next line, which is, you know, the actual hard-hitting line.
Nauseous. You don't look like the type that's keen
on neck washes. So that's a great line because, again, it's like a lot of ERBs, it's multi-layered. So first off, he's insulting Vlad by saying, doesn't look like you're the cleanest person out there. You don't look like you wash a lot. Neck washes, because of course Dracula bites the neck, but also neck washes were tradition back in Vlad's time before you were decapitated, right? It's almost like when they give you a lethal injection, but they swab you with the alcohol before they give you the injection, like, you know, don't want you to catch infection or anything, you know, before you die. So Vlad died during battle, very shortly after he was freed, actually. And after he died, he was decapitated, and then his head was raised up on a pike for display. So neck washes here has, like, you know, it's a triple meaning.
Neck washes.
Did you shapeshift those punchlines? Because they missed.
That was my favorite. I mean, the creativity here, because he's going back to what Count just said about being able to shapeshift and bone Winona Ryder, shapeshift into mist, and he's like, did you just shapeshift all those lyrics? Because they missed. So good.
Your skill's like your reflection. It doesn't exist. Turn your taint to a tiz.
I'll turn your taint into a tiz. So good. So before that, he said, your skills are like your reflection doesn't exist. So again, one of the tropes in Dracula mythology is that Dracula has no reflection. He doesn't show up in pictures or images or things of that nature. So much like a reflection, your skills don't exist. And he said, I'll turn your taint into a tiz. So taint is a contraction of it's not or it ain't, right? It taint. Or tis meaning it is, right? So is not. So I'm going to change your no into a yes, but I'll turn your taint, which is the taint is the space between the nuts and the asshole, right? You know, taint the nuts, taint the asshole. Just the taint, right? But I'll turn your taint into a tiz because, again, Vlad, one of the legends at least, was that he would skewer people through the butthole.
When I put a stick through ya, seen a sucker this soft, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, this one I missed when I reacted to it the first time. So this is why I think it's a good idea for me to watch it thoroughly first, break down the rap part. So this way, when I rewatch it, I don't miss, you know, certain lines here. Because I definitely missed Bunicula. So Bunicula was actually something I grew up with. It was a series of books back in the 80s that we used to get from those catalog things that they do in Scholastic, right? Which I still do because Jacob used to bring him home from elementary school. But I used to love the Bunicula books, and I do remember there was a TV show as well. But Bunicula was basically a bunny who was a vampire, right? But he's using it to say that the Count is soft, like a bunny, you know, being a vampire, right? Again, you know, I inspire fear, you inspire Count Chocula, right?
Beat by Count Dracula, you're smoking Dracula. I dunk on your wackula, raps like I'm Shacula.
That part there had me rolling the first time, man. You know, there's no historical content here or context, but it's just great. And again, it shouldn't work, but Epic Lloyd and the delivery and everything else, it just works, right? He's like, me get beat by you? You must be spoken crack. But of course, using the wordplay of Dracula. You're smoking Dracula.
I dunk on your wackula, raps like I'm
I'll dunk on your wackula raps like I'm Shacula. So, of course, saying his raps are whack. And just in case, if somebody doesn't know, Shacula is a reference to Shaquille O'Neal, right? Basketball player, center for the Lakers, and in my opinion, the best big man ever.
Vlad to the bone.
And of course, a reference to the famous meme and GIF, which I actually used in the video of the one kid is like, and the one kid falls over in front of him like, damn, you just killed it.
I dunk on your wackula, raps like I'm Shacula. I'm Vlad to the bone, Vlad the hot nailer, Vlad that commits heinous acts on rats. The jail.
So this is the one time that they actually reference the fact that Vlad was jailed for over a decade. And let's see, before that, I'm Vlad to the Bone, which is a play on the George Thorogood song, Bad to the Bone.
Vlad
the Hat Nailer, that actually comes from a story of Vlad being visited, I believe it was by Turks, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember what the visit was about, but they wouldn't remove their turbans for religious reasons. So Vlad had their turbans literally nailed to their heads, so they couldn't take them off ever. You know, it's kind of like that scene in The Bronx Tale when Sonny closes the door on the bikers. Now you can't leave. He was like, now you can't take them hats off. So the Hat Nailer is also a play on the fact that, man, check this hat out, man. I nailed this shit. It kind of looks like a nail, too. It looks like a nail head.
Vlad that commits heinous acts on rats.
Vlad that commits heinous acts on rats, asked the jailer. So it's at least said, right? Because again, a lot of the rumors were spread by his enemies, kind of like, you know, Napoleon's enemies spread the rumors that he was short and all that stuff. So it said while he was imprisoned that Vlad would still continue to commit heinous acts. So he would capture rats in his cell, and he would literally take a stick and skewer them like he did his enemies, and drink their blood and all that other stuff.
You leached my name, you pale son of a bitch, and your weak ass gets beat by the sun at the beach.
So I'll play on you son of a bitch, son at the beach. You leached off my name. So a leech, of course, is another, you know, blood-sucking creature. But when somebody leeches off of you, it means like, you know, they're just biting your style. That, you know, they're trying to suck your, you know, suck you dry. because, again, Bram Stoker's original novel was heavily based on Vlad and all the tales about him. But in the original novel, actually, Dracula is not affected by the sun. That came later, right? So he's saying you're so weak that, you know, you get beat by the sun at the beach, but that's actually not true.
Your slick hair and cape are all flappy razzle-dazzle, but at the end of the day you're a bat, and that's only half a bat.
That was good. At the end of the day, you're a bat, because Dracula, again, can shapeshift into a bat, and that's the animal he's most closely associated with. But he's saying you're just a bat, and that's only half the battle, right? Because if you split the word in half, you get bat. But also a reference to this is half done, right? This battle is half over.
Whoa, I did not know that you could read. That's great. Now let's see if you can bleed.
Yeah, let's see if you can bleed. Yeah, whatever. I didn't like this second verse by Count Dracula at all. I mean, while it's true during Vlad's time, the majority of peoples were illiterate. But again, yeah, I didn't know you could read. Let's see if you can bleed. He's like Batman in Dawn of Justice. Do you bleed? Why did you say that name?
Ha! You thought the sun could kill me? Not true! I'm the vampire so cold they call me Nosferatu!
Yeah, so there were a couple of references here to previous...
That's great! Let's see if you can bleed!
Yeah, so the hiss thing, that comes from the Hammer movies, which were a series of Dracula movies starring Christopher Lee that were made by Hammer Studios, and that's why they're known as the Hammer movies. And I think in the very first movie in the 60s that came out, Christopher Lee's character, Dracula, actually doesn't even say anything in the movie. All he does is hiss. So that's kind of where that whole trope came from, like the blah, blah, blah.
Ha! You thought the sun could kill me? Not true! I'm the vampire so cold they call me Nos...
Yeah, so the Count is correcting him here that in the original novelization of Bram Stoker's Dracula, the sun didn't hurt Dracula at all. That was used in the Nosferatu movie with Max Schreck. And then the 1931 Bela Lugosi movie, they use that as kind of like plot devices. But he's saying, I'm so sick, they call me Nosferatu. So again, a play on Nosferatu and him spitting rhymes that are so sick. But also in the Max Schreck movie, Nosferatu, when he does come to town, he does bring like disease with him and all that stuff. So it could be a reference to that as far as Nosferatu goes.
Nosferatu! My syllable delivery is devilishly intricate. I rock the house once I'm invited in.
Yeah, so that's another legend that Dracula can't enter your house unless you're invited. And then it extended to all vampires. Like in one of my favorite shows of all time, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the vampires can't enter your home unless they're invited in. But once they are invited in, they can come and go as they please. But he's saying once he does get in the house, he rocks the house, right? He rocks the party.
Do it, and here's a tidbit that you can stick a stake up. You're losing so bad, you should join Team Jacob.
Oh, God, we had to get a Twilight reference. God damn. So he's saying, here's a little tidbit. Again, mentioning the skewers. A lot of skewering in this video. A lot of impaling. You should join Team Jacob. So this annoyed the fuck out of me when my son Jacob was born, because I named him Jacob after my great-grandfather, because it was a promise that I made to my grandmother, because it was her dad, that if I ever had a son, I would name him after. So unfortunately, it was around the time the Twilight movies were real big, and they're like, oh, we get it, because your name is Edward. Yes, that's my full name, is Edward. And your son's name is Jacob. Ha, 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 we get it. Team Edward, Team Jacob. Yeah, so Edward was the vampire and Jacob was the werewolf in those movies. And everybody was like, I'm Team Jacob because the chick should be with Jacob. No, I'm Team Edward. Ugh.
Renfield! Yes, master. Call a doctor, not sewer.
Yeah, so Renfield is possessed by Dracula and does all of his bidding, right? Is kind of similar to Igor, right? In Frankenstein, but he's saying call a doctor, but not Seward. So Dr. Seward is the doctor who interviews Renfield when Renfield is in the asylum to try to understand, why he is the way he is and acts the way he acts. So he's like, call a doctor, but not Seward. So Dr. Seward was kind of like the Harley Quinn of the Dracula universe. Except I don't think Dr. Seward ever tried to bang Renfield.
Because Vlad the Impaler has just been skewered.
Yeah, so he's saying Vlad the Impaler has just been skewered. So that definitely wasn't a mic drop line, because it was kind of like somebody getting knocked down and then being like, you had enough? You had enough? You want some more? Nah, man. You're the one who got knocked out, man. So yeah, so if you're watching this and you want to see a more condensed breakdown of the battle itself, you can check out the link for that. But this was the full breakdown. As always, hope you enjoyed it. And I'll be doing more of these, and I may start revisiting some older ERBs, especially ones that I did a while back, and maybe just do just a breakdown, a more condensed version of the rap parts. Either case, I've been Teacher Ready, and I'll catch you next time. Bam! Whoops. And as always, shouting out the Patreons who keep things running here. The Chancellors, Elena G, Alex S, Cuckles, John Alonzo, Naval Colt, The Hollow King, The Principal Tier, Addison Lynn, Blue Tech, Chad A, Chris H, Chrissy, Clement, Freeman Stephenson, Joshua Stewart, Kiara, Laura, Lord Gandalf, Moody Kakari, Nathan, Quiet J, Rachel H, Robin, Robin B, and Vijandra. I've been Teacher Ready, and I'll catch you next time. Fam!